difficult to sometimes it is difficult to give explanation of the definition. So it has been said that teaching means causing to learn. So teaching basically means causing to learn. So simply delivering lecture doesn't mean teaching. Only because you said something to them doesn't mean that you are performing the task of teaching. And nothing has been given until it has been taken. And just like that, nothing has been taught until it has been learned. So it is something like communication. In communication, we as teacher send some message to our student, and then whether the student receive it or not is something else that we have to think about. So as you can see it from here, nothing has been taught until it has been learned. So this is very, very important because we perform our task as teacher, we teach, but we really don't know whether our students really learn the lesson taught to them. So if they don't, then teaching is not successful. So teaching is more than the efficient delivery of thoroughly prepared lectures. So you might prepare your lectures and your presentation in a very, very efficient manner. That doesn't mean that your teaching is successful. So for successful teaching, you have to make sure that you communicate the message and that you make sure that the student receive those information and understand those information. The only way we can know whether real teaching is happening or not is through the feedback from the students. So in many cases, we don't think too much about whether students really learn or not. So we have to reflect. We have to do some kind of self-reflection so that we can better our teaching. And teachers are expected to be reflective practitioner. Oh, sorry. Teachers are expected to be reflective practitioners, competent to use multiple methods and techniques to engage learners, keeping the socio-cultural context and experiences of the learners in mind. This is the excerpt from the National Curriculum Framework 2005. We teachers are expected to be reflective practitioners. So, and making use of different methods and approaches. And in order to engage learners, we need to understand the socio-cultural context and experiences of the learners as well. And a rational view of reflection involves thinking about things. And most of us spend time thinking about what we do and how it affects others. But we do not always take a further step to reflect on our actions and make plans to do things differently. However, in a professional setting, we are bound to reflect on our actions. I hope Ms. Bien, almost all the participants understand Mizo, right? So if I elaborate a bit in Mizo, if it is okay. Okay. So reflection kan ti hian eng tin nge thil kan vatia kha kan thil ti khan eng tin nge midang ava hong ti kha kan ngai tu ve thina ni ngai tu hi chu amaro chu khami in siam thatur khan eng action eng plan nge kan siama eng action nge kan lak le thin tila ya kha kan ngai tu thleng tel ta lo thina ni chu chumi wang chuanin zirtir tu te chu National Curriculum Framework 2005 tu na framework tang chu ron chok to thowa amar chu khami in a lo soi tong khan reflective practitioners kan ni kha ngai ni chumi kan ni lo chuan kan teaching a khan mason na kha om thei don lo. And reflection is broadly defined as the deliberate and purposeful action in which teachers engage in order to improve upon their professional practice. Deliberate reflection ka chu a deliberate a purposeful bokani chu kan thil ti dar ka classroom ma kan han teach ta an lo ngai tu chi lo wa ani lo pon an thiam ta chi lo wa kan thil zu ti ra ka khata khat eng tin nge ma kan lak don chi ti la ya ka reflective teaching a chuna poimo ta em ta ni chu kan professional practice a hrim bo kan improve zel tur kan ni lai kan improve theina chan thei dan tu chu kan in reflect self reflection kan ti kha poimo ta ni and reflection begins in a state of doubt or perplexity which for teachers is most likely to be encountered while working with learners, particularly new or unfamiliar learners. Tun lai hian atlang puin zirtir tu te kan soi chu kan silai te an thiam lo an diang chi te an ngai sak to lo tiang chi kan soi na sa em em ani assignment a huna an ti lo attendance chia tiang chi kha kan soi na sa em em ta kan class a an tlai thei lu tu tiang chi te khami ang chi kha doubt le perplexity alo om khan in reflect kha a hun da ni chu engwangin nge ka class a mi an claim enga tinge an ngai thak that lo enga tinge an lo enge misbehave enga tinge an lo mut thu khami lai jong jong kha kan no pang thar kan nei phei ka chuan a boi thak thin ani chumi lai tak chu reflection ron in tran na hun tu chu ani ta ni and reflective thinking is used by people when a solution to a problem cannot be found with certainty. This is helpful for the teacher because there is never anything certain in teaching and learning. Heta hian kan thriat tu chu problem kha alo om ta a kha problem na solve tu chiang tak thil hi om lo ta nei chu thil chiang bang chu ti chun a thang ngei don tiang kha om to lo ta chu wang chuan reflective teaching kan tia po reflection kan in reflect kan enge action plan kan han siam action tang kan han la le ta amor chu po chun lo la ti tha thei lo kan in reflect non le kha ngai thin ta chu mi chu teach oh, excuse me, something went wrong with my system. Okay. Kami ni wang khan teaching learning a chun thil certain kha a om ngai lo awang khan reflection kha kan ti in reflect kha kan ti non kha ngai ta ni and reflection helps teacher to have a deeper understanding of their teaching practices and might lead to better teaching practices as teachers might get the chance to evaluate their own weaknesses and strengths through the lenses of a reflection. Reflection kan ti kha chuanin zirtir tu te kha ke mani zirtir dan kha thuk le zol zo ke mani kan in hriat thei na tur kan chak lo na lai te kan chak na lai te kha kham in hriat chuat tir thei ta ni with the help of reflective teaching, the teaching activity is recalled, considered, and assessed so as to deal with the basic characteristics of teaching experience, and to bring about the possible modifications in it. Kan teaching activity ka reflection ti tu chun action na om phot angai da ka kan action ka kan teaching activity ka kan han ngai tu le ta a khoi lai khange tha a khoi lai khange thalo ti kan han ngai tu nu khan thak ngai modify ngai la ya kha kan zu identify thei tren ta hemi hi zirtir tu tam takin kan tlak cham ani ta kan va zirtir ve pho vo in chu ka zirtir thalo te chu kan han ti ve a ngin chu ka zirtir thalu tu ti te mani a hian alo om ve thin ani amaro chu ka zirtir dan kha voina mi kha tha ka ti lu tuk chun engwanga tha ti nge ka ni engwanga tha ti nge ka ni ti lai ka hriat chu the chuan kha practice sun jom don a tu la niang tiang chi te a thalo ani chuan englai khange thalo engtin nge ka siam that theyang ti la ya ka reflective teaching a chuan poimo ta ni a queuing here states that reflective teaching is based upon the assumption that it is possible for teachers to improve their understanding of teaching and the quality of their own teaching with the help of critical reflection on their teaching practices. And dinan reflective teaching kan class kan han lata a kan class la ka khan no pang khan zo na ka zo pon engma an chang lo zo na po engma an zot lo bok khang chik de khang te kha alo ni thei ta ni khang tinga khan kha engwang nge niang engwang nge ka class an zo na an nei ngai mi alo ani lo pon engwang nge ka class an ka zo na an chan ngai mi alo ting chi kha zirtir tu khan ngai tu na seng thei ta ni en tinan excuse me zilai de khan zo na lo chan mi alo chuan an thiam vek nge ni anga engma an thiam lo ni ang khang ding chi kha ngai tu na kha e reflection kha mani le mani akhan kan siam chuan a chan na kha ke mani le ke mani kha min pe don ta ni chu chuan kan next sa kan zirti le dan tu kha aron hong don ta ni. And reflective teaching means looking at what you do in the classroom, thinking about why you do it. Reflective teaching at chuan inge classroom a khan itia mase ithil vatia kha engwanga khatianga vati khange ini tilaya kha kanin ngai tu ngai ta ni entinan atlang kuin powerpoint te kan lo siama kan valu pui to pa kan chiara kan explain bokta chuan period aloral tamai ta khati khan inga tinge ka ti na chan tilaya kha reflective teaching omzia chuan an ta ni atur ve renga mo ka tia ka vati nge a then khan not kan va petop nge a then khatin chi kha engwanga khatianga vati top khange kan ni tilaya kha kan in zo chi na ngai ni. And reflective teaching is a cyclical process, and once you start to implement changes, the reflective and evaluative cycle begins. So, as I've said before, there is nothing certain in teaching and learning. So, even if you reflect on your own teaching and then try to make new plan and deliver those plan, and then it might not work also. So in that case, this is the reason why reflective teaching is a cyclic process. So it keeps on and on and on. And reflection can be done at different levels. So now let us look into reflection in action, on action, and for action. So when you talk about reflection in action, it simply means reflecting while you are doing it. So while you are delivering lecture, if someone misbehave and if someone is not following your instruction, and then you as teacher instantly make some kind of modification in your teaching. So this reflection in action is almost instantaneous and on the spot. Rather than randomly trying any other approach, the professionals use their accumulated experience and knowledge to address the problem instantly. So those who are experienced teachers are usually better than uh, uh, the junior ones when it comes to reflection in action, because they have learned so many things from their experience that if this happens in my class, and then this is the best solution to resolve this problem. So that is also because of the reflection that they have done in their during their service. And another one is reflection on action. This occurs after the action has taken place in the classroom. It is a deliberate and conscious process involving a greater critical analysis of the action and looking back at the problem or event. So, reflection on action kan ti ve thung chuanin classroom kan chu san to nuwa. Classroom kan chu san to nuwa khan thil lo thlenga kha classroom a thil lo thlenga kha ka zirti an lo ngai thla thalo emo ni china kan soi tong khan an lo follow kan instruction and follow lo emo khami ani chung engwanga follow lo nge an ni engwanga hra thiam lo nge an ni i lai kha ka zirti dani adik lo mi kan ti theina lai kha reflection on action chuni ta a chun reflection for action kha om vele ta a. And this type of reflection guides future action based on past thoughts and actions. It combines reflection on action and reflection in action. So we generally, as teachers, perform this reflection in action and reflection on action. But what is always lacking is reflection for action. We reflect we do reflection in action, we do reflection on action, but the most important part is those reflections should be put into action or maybe for the future use. That is what is meant by reflection for action. And 5 stages of reflection given by Griffith and Tan, 1992. The first one is rapid reflection, immediate and automatic. So the reflection that you during while you were inside the classroom, that rapid reflection that you have made while teaching is called rapid reflection. This happens inside the classroom itself, and it comes under reflection in action and repair. So some part of reflection in action is, as I've said, instant. You don't have to think too much to correct the behavior of the students. But repair here means, though it comes under reflection in action, but it is thoughtful. Like maybe you make a pause while teaching and then think about how you will solve the problem. So that is what is known as repair, and it comes under reflection in action. And then the next one is review. This is less formal reflection on action at a particular point in time. So review happens after the class. So maybe you talk to your colleague that, oh, this is how my students behave in my class, and then they cannot follow my instruction, this and that, and then you discuss with your colleague. That is what is called review. And then research. It is more systematic reflection on action over a period of time. So you observe the behavior of the students, and then if you use like lecture method, students are less attentive, or if you are using PowerPoint, they are more attentive. So that kind of research, when we talk about research, it is not like research thing, but we as teachers have to be a researcher as well. Not that we are doing some scientific research or something, but we have to look at the behavior of the students and then try to make some reflection based on that. And retheorizing and reformulating. This is a long-term reflection on action informed by an academic theory. So this is retheorizing and reformulating is comes under reflection on action. But what makes this retheorizing and reformulating different from other stages is that it makes use of some academic theory. Like if students are more attentive if you are using audiovisual aids, let's say for an example. So uh, you as teachers need to look into some theory related to the use of audiovisual aids inside the classroom. So you can somehow solve or come up with better action. So these are the 5 stages of reflection: rapid reflection, repair, review, research, retheorizing, and reformulating. And traits of a reflective teacher. So in order to understand reflective teaching, it is necessary to emphasize 5 key features as traits of a reflective teacher who examines, frames, and attempt to solve the problems of classroom practice. So I think we can reflect on ourselves right now also. These are the traits of a reflective teacher. We can reflect on whether. Okay. Examines, we can reflect ourselves right now also. As I've said, these are the traits of our reflective teacher. We can think whether we examines, frames, and attempts to solve the problems of classroom practice. So if students are regularly late for their class, and then what is your action? So and then we also have to think about whether we are aware of and questions the assumptions and values entailing teaching. Questions whether we questions the assumptions and values entailing teaching, and is attentive to the institutional and cultural context in which to perform. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Who takes part in curriculum development and is involved in the efforts to bring change and takes responsibility for one's own professional development. This we can reflect ourselves right now as teachers, whether we possess these traits of a reflective teacher or not. And reflective teaching stands for self-critical approach to teaching. All aspects of one's teaching are open to critical observation. The purpose of reflective teaching is to solve the problems that arise in the class when a teacher is engaged in the teaching learning process. And there is no quick fix solution to the problems encountered by a teacher in teaching. As a reflective teacher, one needs to plan the action systematically and execute the same to address the problems encountered in the teaching context. So, as I've said in the beginning of this lecture, like if someone misbehave, we now how I manage the classroom. Like before, I used to scold them. Like if they misbehave, and then I pointed them and then scold them like ask them to stop misbehaving. But now I hardly did that. What I'm doing right now, how I manage those behavior these days is like I will approach them, go next to them, and then stand next to them, and then they stop misbehaving. So that is from my reflection of like especially classroom management. And during invigilation also, before I used to caught students who cheated during examination. But now I I changed my uh, way of dealing with those who are trying to cheat or those who cheat. Maybe those who cheat, my treatment might be same, but even even if I know they have something and then they are trying to cheat or something, as an invigilator, my task is to invigilate. So I make them unable to cheat. That is how I deal with the problems during invigilation also. And if someone sleep in my class, and I reflect myself, and sometimes I empathize also because while we were student, we used to sleep inside our in the class also. So I can somehow empathize, but I if someone sleep in my class and then I'm thinking that, oh, my teaching is not that interesting, so they don't care too much about my teaching. So that is how I look at those behavior. And if someone failed in my paper, and then I used to think this way that, oh, these days students, they never learn, their study habit is bad, or their screen time is this and that excuses. But we as teachers have to reflect, do some self reflection. How do how we teach, and then for the whole semester we are taking class, and at the same time I cannot even make them secure even pass mark. That is how I reflect myself these days. So a reflection, it is not only about teaching, but it is about dealing with students in the system, not only classroom situation, but also during examination, during other co-curricular activities and all. Also, we can reflect on our actions, the actions that we execute to our students, and observe your own teaching process. Imagine yourself as an observer in your own classroom. What do you observe? Whether you are able to connect the previous knowledge of the learners to the new information which you intended to impart. So what happens is, like, especially at college level, so one paper, like one full paper is usually 4 credits, but it is convenient that two teachers share one paper. And then one teacher will start teaching right from the first unit, and then the second teacher will start teaching right away from the third unit maybe. So it might be it is important for teacher to remember that it might be difficult for students to connect their prior knowledge, like they are supposed to learn unit 1 first, and then unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, but due to lack of faculty or other resources maybe, and then usually we share papers, so one start with first unit, one start with third unit at the same time. So for students, it will be very, very difficult to, connect it with the previous knowledge. So we have to ask ourselves, reflect on this, whether you are able to connect the previous knowledge of the learners to the new information which you intended to impart, especially in some technical papers like research methodology. And then the first unit might start with introduction to educational research, something. And then the third unit may be around about hypotheses, variables, and all. So if you started off with hypothesis, for students, it is very, very difficult. You have to understand that for students, it is very, very difficult to understand the concept of hypothesis, the concept of variables, maybe parametric statistics. It is very difficult. So we need to know that. And are the questions put to the class distributed appropriately among all the students? This again is very common in our in our practice, in our classroom practice, that there are always two or three students who are always very attentive, and it is very easy for teachers to direct question to those students only, forgetting about others. This we need to reflect on this also. Is there something that you would like to improve upon? Is there something that you would like to improve upon? And not only your teaching, but also the participation of the students in the teaching learning process. So if you want your student to participate, and if you are still using lecture method all the time, and then students' participation will not be that much, because lecture method, as we all know, is very authoritarian method of teaching, autocratic method of teaching. So the teacher's role is uh, uh, the teachers remains active, but students remains passive all the time in lecture method. So even if you are using lecture method, and then if you want to improve the students' participation in the teaching learning process, then you need to reflect on your the method that you are using. And is there something excellent that you would like to continue in your teaching practice? So as I have said before, uh, there are times when like we feel that I delivered a lesson successfully or something. Student understand my teaching and everything. So you can think about uh, why students understand your teaching. So there might be something in the methods that you are using. So if you want to, if you can identify that thing, and then you can continue with that method or skill or tactic or strategy maybe, so that you can uh, improve the students learning as well as the participation of the students maybe, and your teaching in general. Process of reflective teaching. This consists of two interrelated activities. These are actions based upon reflection and reflection based upon action. Actions based upon reflection and reflection based upon action. So as I've said before, this reflective teaching is a cyclic process. So sometimes your action will depend on the reflection that you have done, or sometimes your reflection will be based on your action as well. When you reflect on your teaching, you may decide to improve upon it in a specific direction. For that, uh, you plan action. After taking the action, you again observe whether the desired change in your teaching has taken place. Reflective teaching implies planning for the action and then the need to make observation on which to reflect. So you make some reflection about your action, and then again you reflect. You make some kind of reflection based on your action later, and then if the desired change is not achieved, and then you can go on and on. And action cycle. The first step is planning. Once you identify a problem that occurs in your classroom or perceive any aspect of your weak teaching, you need to plan to address the problem. Once you identify a problem that occurs in your classroom, you observe that something occurs in your classroom, some problem occurs in your classroom, and or you perceive any aspect of your weak teaching, and you need to plan. Right now, for me, my weakness is maybe sometimes I'm reflecting on my teaching. While talking to other colleagues, they said that, oh, this class, they are very participative and all. But in my class, they always keep quiet. And then I reflect myself on my action. And then sometimes, right now, I'm teaching statistics. So in statistics, discussion hardly happens. So it could be due to the paper that I'm teaching also. It is not always that your method of teaching is bad always. That student don't even participate in your class. That is not always the case also. So depending on the subject that you are teaching also, that can also affect the participation of the students. And after identifying the problems and the weakness of your teaching, you make some plan to address those problems. That is the first step. And then the second step is acting. This is the stage when you execute your plan to solve the problem. You execute the plan. And then the third one is observing. At this stage, you monitor the effects of your inputs. You identify one problem, and then you plan something to address that problem, and then you act out. That is acting. And then you observe your action, whether it is effective or not. And reflect. The last one is reflecting. At this stage, you realize whether you have achieved the desired outcomes. You should know what has worked and what has not worked. If the desired outcomes are not achieved, you again plan inputs to obtain the same. So it keeps repeating, the cycle until the desired level achieved. And why reflective teaching? Reflective teaching informs you that you are in charge of your teaching and that you have a major contribution to make towards its success. So this is very, very important. You are in charge of your teaching and that you have a major contribution to make towards its success. Other will not make much contribution to make your teaching effective or something, but you yourself are in charge of your teaching. So if students continuously misbehave in your class, it could be the method that you are using, the way you interact with them, and many other things. So other teacher will not solve your problem. You are in charge of your teaching. And this is why behavior must not be taken for granted, as it needs to be continuously evaluated to let your practice and experiences be meaningful. And reflective teaching is a deliberate move to allow you to think critically of your teaching practice so that your students can maximize their learning. So, as I've said in the beginning, teaching is causing to learn. So reflective teaching is a deliberate move to allow you to think critically of your teaching practice so that your students can maximize their learning. Thus, through a change-oriented activity, you contribute highly to your professional development as well. And research 1919 argued that experience alone is insufficient for professional growth. But experience coupled with reflection is a powerful impetus for teacher development. So he argued that experience alone is insufficient for professional growth. Of course, experience plays a very important role here, but when it is coupled with reflection, it is a powerful impetus for teacher development. And self-reflection is one of the most important components of reflective teaching process, which may give lots of evidence related to the teachers carrying out reflection. So uh, reflection, self-reflection is very important because it will help us understand ourselves. It will help us understand ourselves. Self-understanding is very, very important. We teachers, we don't even understand ourselves that we consider ourselves as good teacher, but our students, other colleagues don't think it that way in many cases. So sometimes we might think that uh, my teaching is good, but it is the students and like that. So, but that is not always the case. So self-understanding is key here. So self-understanding has been recognized as a key competency for individuals to function efficiently. It influences an individual's ability to make key decisions about self, others around, and organizations. As a result, it influences our effectiveness in work, the directions taken in our lives. Though it is slightly off from our today's topic, self-understanding is very, very important to do or perform self-reflection. If we don't understand ourselves, our reflection is also, cannot be that effective. So for the last slide, I want to show you this Johari window theory. As you can see it from here, we have this open window, we have blind, we have. Oh, let me reshare that. So as you can see it from here, in order to understand ourselves, this Johari window theory. Um, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have this open quadrant, which is known to self and known to others. I know that this is me, and then other also recognize that this is you. But the blind spot is here. This is not known to self. I don't know that I'm selfish, but other people know that I am selfish. And then hidden spot is here, that which is known to self. I know that I am selfish, but others don't know that I am selfish. But with interaction, this blind can turn into this open. And then the unknown is the what is important here. So if we keep reflecting ourselves, and then we can unveil this unknown spot also, so that reflection, everything will be done in a proper way. So this is all for my presentation for today. I don't know if I keep my time.
Thank you. Uh, Thank you for that insightful presentation, Sir Ratfila. Participants are requested to kindly post their questions in the chat box. Is there any question from the participants? You can ask anything about inside his uh, topic. Oh, I can't draw.
If there is no question, then I have to reflect on my.
Okay. Oh. From the participants, is there any questions? Our topic is very useful for the teachers. Anyone? Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Sir, while others are taking a moment to think, I would like to ask a question, especially for the students participating in this session. Can students also be involved in the teacher's reflection process? Can students also be involved in the teacher's reflection process?
Very much, yeah. Because their behavior inside the classroom alone is like where the teachers have to reflect on, and consciously or unconsciously, through their behavior, teacher do some reflection, and also now we have this feedback system. So it is very difficult for teachers to, do some self-reflection all the time because we don't really know how students perceive our, our teaching and everything. So we have this system. I think even in university and colleges also that every end semester, students will give feedback to their teachers. So if suppose 5 is the highest mark, and if I always get 1, if I'm rank one, rated as 1, maybe I don't know. So I can reflect on the based on the I can do some reflection based on that also. So yeah, of course, student plays a very important role in this reflective teaching, and from indirectly also their performance in my paper, uh, that indirectly tells me that I need to do some reflection. Not that they are not aware that I am reflecting based on their performance, but indirectly they do, help in uh, 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 this reflective teaching.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you so much. As we come to the end of this session, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our speaker, Dr. Watfila, for such enlightening and encouraging presentation. Then, from his presentation, I hope we, the teacher, will become more effective and influential. I hope we can also develop our teaching skills, our technique of teaching, and like not only that, delivering our classroom lecture and during the preparation for our lecture also. And our speaker, he told us real meaning of teaching. We teacher, we may not know the real meaning of that teaching. Then the usefulness of reflection to have a better teaching. And he also taught us how to improve our teaching, how to solve the problem inside the classroom, and how to manage and how to create a conducive classroom environment for students' learning. And and also how to understand ourselves to become a competent teacher. We are thank you very much, Then I also thanks to all participants for their active participation. With this, we conclude our today's seminar. Thank you, everyone, and have a great time ahead. And tomorrow, up to 1st May, we have a seminar ahead, and another four is research. 4 working days. Okay, then we invited every participants participated again. Okay, thank you so much.